You have to understand hooks. Most people have heard that term hooks, but they don't know what a hook is. Okay. So I've struggled to get people to answer what is a hook. So here's what I think a hook is in its most basic essence. A hook is something you say that gets people to want to hear more of what you have to say. That is what a hook is, as I define it, right? A hook is something you say that makes people want to hear more of what you have to say. Something you say that makes people want to hear more about what you have to say. So what does that mean? The best hooks, there's two really simple general ways to do a hook. So the first one is ask a question. A question is a hook. If I open the very first part of my video with a question, like, what are the 5 ways to become wealthy? It's a hook because by asking that question, many people want to stick around to hear the answer. And what is a hook? A hook is something you say that makes people want to hear more of what you have to say. So asking a question is always a great hook because once you pose a question, the human mind, like biologically, hates incomplete things and loves to complete things. So it wants to know what's the answer to the question. So it's almost like they have to stick around because you've opened a psychological loop that they want to complete. It's hard to stop watching a movie that in the middle of the movie, even if it's no good. We want to know how it ends. So when we ask a question, we go, ask a question, and then people stick around. And if you look at podcast hosts like Lewis Howes and other people who do interview top podcasts, when they clip their podcast for social, a lot of times the first frame will be the host asking the question for 2 reasons. So that because the host's followers recognize them, they don't recognize the guest because they don't follow the guest, they follow the host. So they want to see you so that they go, oh, this is one of Rory's posts or this is one of Lewis's posts. But then they'll use a question because they go, we want to see the question that you asked in the interview so that the audience sticks around to hear the answer to that question. So then they just cut to the host to show their face. Lewis asks a question, and then they cut to the guest answering the question. And that becomes a really simple, great hook. The other type of hook is to simply tell people what you're going to tell them. That's how to do a hook, is tell people what you're about to tell them. You just say, tell them what they're about to learn in the video. In fact, I'm going to show you a great example. This is one of my favorite examples. So I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce this woman's name. I think it's Sade Zarai. I don't know. But she's really smart and really great. And she has a very sophisticated yet simple system. Okay, let me make sure I'm sharing my audio here. Okay, so listen. What I'm going to do here, let me get it off mute. So I'll pull this one up. I'm going to get this off of mute. Okay, now all I'm going to do, here's the exercise. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to fast forward. I'm just going to let you listen to the first 3 seconds because the first 3 seconds are the most important. That's the hook. What's the hook? The hook is the thing you say that makes people want to hear more of what you have to say. The thing that you say that makes people want to hear more of what you have to say. And the hook has to happen in the first 3 seconds. Not, hey guys, how you doing? That's not a hook. That doesn't make me want to stick around. The hook is tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you're about to tell them. Or pose a question. Those are the 2 most common formulas, most universal formulas, is either first words out of your mouth is a question. Do you ever wonder how to get more referrals, right? Want to save money on your taxes? Not, hey, my name is Rory. And fail. Cut to the point. Cut to the hook. Tell them what you're about to tell them or ask a question. Just pose a question, and that is a hook in and of itself. These are the 2 best types of hooks. It's just start with a question or tell them what you're going to tell them. Cut right to the chase. Tell them what you're going to tell them. So simple. You can do this. Nobody is teaching these secrets, right? I had to figure it out, identify the patterns and go, oh my gosh, it's so simple. It's just hard to see when you can't see the forest through the trees. So that is it. What is a hook? A hook is something that you say that gets people want to hear more of what you have to say. Now, there's actually 3 types of hooks. Okay, so here's the twist. Okay, so there is an audio hook. You hook them with your words. You hook them with what you say. But there is also a text hook. So a text hook is the font, like the text that is printed on the screen. And text hooks are really important because the human brain processes text much faster than it processes speech. I can read something and process it almost instantly, but I auditorily I can't even process it until you finish saying it, and it takes 5 seconds for you to say it, whereas I can read it and process it in a second. So when we're channeling attention spans, we're optimizing for short attention spans, the text on the screen matters a lot. It's really important. That's the third type, or the second type of the hook, the second part of the hook. It's really one hook, and the on-screen text, it can be exactly what you say. Like, notice Jefferson does that a lot, where it's like, it's a lot of times the same thing that he's going to say verbally as he'll put that on. But a lot of times it's a little bit different. And we do that to have two hooks, two different hooks for the same thing. So I could say the text, the on-screen text could say, how to respond to a liar. But then out of my mouth, I would say, what to do when someone lies to you. So I capture them with two different hooks. So you can experiment with that, which leads me to the third type, the third part of the hook, which is visual hooks. Visual hooks. So everything about social media is about capturing attention. The way that your reticular activating system works in your brain, your reticular activating system is a collection of neurons back in your brainstem that determine what to pay attention to and what not to. And it has to, because at any given moment, there's hundreds of thousands of things going on that you could be paying attention to, that if you did, you'd be going crazy, right? If we were just sitting here going, wow, I'm really nervous about, is there a comet heading towards our planet right now? And is there clean water in Africa? And how am I going to pay my taxes in 2020, 2029? And is this chair about to break and fall out from underneath me? And what is my electric bill this year? Those are all things that if your brain was constantly thinking about everything all at once, you would go insane. So your reticular activating system is the piece of your brain that determines, and it's a filter, right? It filters what to pay attention to and what not to. Well, when you're trying to capture attention, which is part of the reason why the audio hook and the text hook are so important, is we're speaking directly to the RAS, the RAS, the reticular activating system, to say, if this topic is important to you, then pay attention. If it's not, they'll scroll past. But it's really hard not to pay attention to something when the case for why you should pay attention to it is presented right up front, which is what you're doing in the hook. The other part about attention spans is that a huge part of gaining attention is pattern interrupts, right? So we don't pay attention to things that are normal. We don't pay attention to things that are usual. I don't pay attention to everything going on my desk unless there's a spill. If there's a spill, suddenly I notice, oh my gosh, like it's going to get all over all my stuff. You don't pay attention to traffic until there's an accident or till there is traffic. Like, pay attention when there's an interrupt in the norm. And it's pattern interrupts. So we use the psychology of that and the neuroscience and the biology of how your brain is structured to go, we want to create pattern interrupts. Visuals are pattern interrupts, right? All of a sudden, I have your attention. Why? Because I'm holding a Garfield doll. What does that mean? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm holding a Garfield doll, and you're wondering, why is Rory holding a Garfield doll? It's just a pattern interrupt. Props make great pattern interrupts. Any type of the visual matters a lot, mostly for the pattern interrupt. You don't have to show you on private jets and pictures of your house and that sort of stuff. It just needs to be something that is unexpected, something that is different. And that's why it's often good to use different visuals. Why am I doing this? I'm doing it just for the pattern interrupt of why is Rory on a bicycle? Those are hooks, right?